This morning, Charlotte and I will be showing you a preliminary overview of a site we've been recording the pottery from. The Liberty of Southwark site at Landmark Court was dug by MOLA in 2021 to 2023, and over 630 kilograms of pottery was recovered. But more on that in a bit. I'm going to give a brief overview, a whirlwind introduction about the site and its background, and then Charlotte will take over and tell you more about the pottery assemblage itself. So here is the site location, down here, over the river from the main Roman settlement of Londinium. The site is on the largest island, the North Island of what is now Southwark, which during the early Roman period was a series of islands, or eyots, which were progressively expanded by land reclamation throughout the Roman period. And here is a better picture of the North Island, where we know you can see where the roads are, although this needs slightly updating now. And as you can see, the site spans the Southwark Street channel, just through here, which was revetted and increasingly infilled during the Roman period. And here is the site in its modern context, with London Bridge being up here. So, this is what we knew about the site even before we started fieldwork. We strongly suspected we would find evidence of potential buildings and burials, as major interventions had been carried out on the northern part of the site footprint from 1980 to 1986, excavated by the Southwark and Lambeth Archaeological Committee and published in Lambeth Transactions, as a possible mansio in Roman Southwark excavations at 15 to 23 Southwark Street. And in some other areas, down here, other trenches, was work related to the Jubilee Line tube extension in the 1990s. So the original write-up in Lambeth gives us a chronology that pretty much matched what we saw on our site. After some sparse, ephemeral prehistoric evidence, we see clay and timber buildings constructed around 60 to 70 AD. And then during various phases of rebuilding these clay and timber structures, we see the addition of a building with deep stone foundations, with an ambulatory and a courtyard just after 70 AD, the beginnings of the possible mansio. But what is a mansio? It's classified as an official stopping place on a Roman road used by people on government business, possibly maintained by some form of government officials. During the early to mid-2nd century, we see the development of a larger multi-roomed building, including the addition of a hypercourse and drainage system with a tank, which building 6. And then around 140 to 200, possibly after a period of abandonment or population contraction, and constructed in multiple phases, we see substantial building complex with masonry walls and multiple hypercoursed rooms, which is building 7. Over the 2nd and 3rd centuries, we see many phases of clay and timber walls and masonry additions and refurbishments. So this is what we get when we map the results of the previous dig with the new, dig together. So it might be easier if you ignore the new building numbers, but basically building 2 in the middle here is the building with the hypercourse and drainage system. Originally rejected as a bathhouse, but our building specialist now thinks it is a bathhouse, possibly part of the same complex as building 3, so together a possible proposed mansio. We know of at least 4 other mansios on Stane Street, which runs between London and Chichester, ending at London Bridge, so passing very close to our site. And this is a wonderful image of another mansio of a wall in Staffordshire, with a very similar layout to what we have in Southwark. A courtyard building on the right for admin and accommodation, and then a bathhouse on the left. The 1980s dig recovered very fragmentary painted wall plaster fragments, making it difficult to reconstruct wider decorative schemes. But the recent excavation recovered whole collapsed walls with many really exciting features, But this is all we're allowed to show you at this time. It's a lovely, lovely flower. Those of you who attended the Lambeth conference earlier in the year got to see a sneak preview of what will be featured on BBC TV and radio in the coming days. And the bathhouse area with some really exciting mosaics. 2 discrete squares, probably from the same room. And it was a reconstruction that was done, although this was done before the interpretation as a bathhouse was confirmed. And just a quick note about the late Roman period, when this area was used as a cemetery. Most burials excavated during the recent phase of work surrounded a small building thought to be mausoleum at this time. Although it is unusual, as this small building has not 1, but 2 mosaics, 1 under each other. And here is a reconstruction, it's a bit dark, but reconstruction here of the mausoleum based on one from Cologne, with bodies in shrouds or coffins placed in niches around the wall. So, going back to the potential mansio, what we know is we have a substantial building complex with some stone walls, extravagant painted wall plaster, imported and Purbeck marbles, and heated rooms with a possible associated bathhouse, which has fine tessellated and mosaic floors. And we, like the 1980s dig, also have a significant assemblage of finds relating to possible military and or government presence, dress accessories, adornments, but also, as our finds specialist put it, ink-based literacy equipment and security equipment. We have 3 copper alloy inkwells, 2 glass inkwells, 5 Samian sherds from inkwells, as well as seal boxes, a copper alloy stylus, 21 lamps, lock bolts and keys. Our CBM specialist also recorded procutorial stamps and Classis Britannica tiles. So, are we looking at a high status complex, possibly with administrative or military function? Is it a mansio or a wealthy townhouse? Or did it have different functions during the different phases? Lots of questions to answer, but what does the pottery tell us? And that's handing over to you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Claire. So what does the pottery tell us about the site? Firstly, I need to make it clear that although the material has been quantified and spot dated, it's still at the assessment stage and has not been fully researched or analysed yet. However, some interesting themes and aspects of the assemblage have emerged from this assessment. So let's look at how much was recovered. There was a total of 14,187 sherds, weighing 545 kilograms from across 593 contexts. There was an estimated vessel equivalent of 421 eaves and 220 ceramic accessions ranging from lamps and stamped Samian to vessels with graffiti. A total of 5 contexts contain over 500 sherds and 16 have between 100 to 499, and over 4/5 of all of the contexts have fewer than 30 sherds in them. So looking at the dating, over half of the contexts are dated to the 1st and 2nd centuries, and many have been noted as having residual material in them, such as notable pre-Flavian material in Flavian dated contexts, or 1st century material in the 2nd century context. Now, while this kind of mixing is not necessarily unusual in this area of Southwark, it does give additional weight to the suggestion that the buildings on the Liberty site were not constructed at the same time as the River Thames was being bridged around AD 50 at London Bridge. Evidence of sparse early Roman activity in this area exists at the Union Street excavations, which are down here towards the south of our site, and also from the excavations at the 1980s site that Claire, the same site that Claire mentioned. But this activity is limited to pits and ditches. Southwark is an area which has undergone plenty of excavation, and broad comparisons suggest that the Liberty's early Roman ceramic profile is more aligned with the Union Street excavations down here than, for example, with the Thameslink excavations to the north near London Bridge. The two main differences identified are the lack of Boudiccan fire deposits at the Liberty site and at 33 Union Street, while there were Boudiccan fire destruction debris identified at the Thameslink, in the Thameslink assemblage. Indeed, James Gerard states that at 33 Union Street, the years after AD 75 mark the real beginning of intensive Roman activity, and this appears to be reflected on the site of the Liberty also. Moving on now to look at one of the thematic elements of the pottery assemblage and the site that was touched upon by Claire earlier, the links to administration and writing. There are 6 sherds of Samian rittling form 13 inkwells in the Liberty pottery assemblage, thought to represent 5 vessels. One of these has 3 X's scored into the vessel post-firing, as you can see here. The previous 1980s excavation recovered 15 sherds from Samian inkwells, and Joanna Bard in her 1992 report suggested that these indicated clerical or similar activity on the site. With the previous excavations and the recent excavations at the Liberty, there are now a total of 21 Samian inkwell fragments, a substantial number for a single site. Samian inkwells were also noted as significant at excavations at 27 to 29 Union Street, again to the south of our site, and directly next door to 33 Union Street. Additionally, the finds assemblage from the Liberty contains the lids or tops of at least 3 copper alloy inkwells, dating broadly to the 1st to 3rd centuries. There are 3 sherds from 2 glass inkwells present, and the glass used to make one of them comes from northern Egypt. Only a single stylus was present from the site. The finds assemblage also has 12 copper alloy lock bolts and 4 slide keys, which were more suited to chests, box or cabinets than to large doors, and are likely to be related to security. There are a total of 21 ceramic lamps from the Liberty, and a further suggestion of official involvement in the buildings on site comes from a procutorial stamped tile, which is here. Interestingly, in addition to the tile is a procutorial mortaria stamp from the site, but apologies, I haven't got a photo of it, so I'm just going to reuse the stamp from the tile. The presence and distribution of these rare finds in London was published in 1996 by Dr. Kay Hartley and is shown on this slide. Since that work, the example from the Liberty assemblage appears to be the second one from Southwark, with the first one being found at 27 to 29 Union Street. This map is by no means an updated version of Kay's work. However, it is interesting that the stamps north of the river are more distributed further away from each other, whereas the Southwark, the pair in Southwark are in closer proximity. However, this may be because I haven't updated this map fully with all of the stamps found, and indeed if you have any stamp procutorial mortaria stamps that you know of from London, please let us know, because we are hoping to investigate this and maybe update it at analysis. Next. Here you can see the actual distribution of the procutorial stamps on tiles from Ian Betts's work in 1995. Again, to my knowledge, this map has not been updated since then. But what it does show is the incidence of tile stamps in Southwark. The incidence of tile stamps is far greater than mortaria stamps. It also shows procutorial tile stamps in Southwark are present at 15 to 23 Southwark Street, which are the original excavations from our site. This additional tile stamp that has been found from the Liberty excavations add to the previous suggestions that there was some significant building or buildings in Southwark with civic or official involvement, if not administrative purpose. So this brings us back again to 33 Union Street and 27 to 29 Union Street, which were just to the south of the Liberty. And they both had large dumps of high status building material. The building material from the Liberty has a similar profile as at the Union Street excavations and suggests buildings of some significance. Again, here is the distribution of procutorial tile stamps mapped against glass tessera. At Union Street, the map shows that there were over 100, which is down here in blue, but really the figure is actually over 1,200, which alone came from 27 to 29 Union Street. While the numbers at the Liberty were not comparably high to that to 27 to 29 Union Street, they do add to James Gerard's description of this area as a hotspot. So there's evidence of the buildings that they had finely decorated floors, but what about the walls? As mentioned, there are significant quantities of painted wall plaster recovered from the Liberty. This lovely flower again. But what about the there's also potential evidence of painting in the ceramic assemblage with some lumps of pigment found in the same context as this tiny little pot. Is this another miniature vessel or is it used in painting? There's also a local bowl here which has banded residue on the interior. It's difficult to see from the picture, but there are red, blue and yellow bands which may be some kind of pigment, possibly even suggesting repeated use maybe, and hopefully scientific analysis will help reveal some of these answers. This is a snapshot of some of the miniature vessels and a face pot that we recovered from the site, and their presence may hint of some sort of votive activity, but analysis will help decipher this. And then finally, we're putting out a quick call for anything similar to these vessels. We have the first is a set of Dragendorf form 33s. They were found together and were the only ceramics in the context. We know that sets of Samian vessels are not unusual, but we're wondering if anyone has any examples or seen any sets of exactly the same form with these differentiations in sizes before. And then secondly, there's we have an odd form of flask or flagon, almost with its own cup or unguent type shape on the top. So please let us know if you have any ideas or parallels or suggestions, and thank you for listening.